Welcome back everybody. In this video I'm going to talk about why I think you should definitely be shooting RAW with your Fujifilm cameras. For the sake of this video, I am assuming that you already know the difference between RAW files and JPEG files, and if you don't know that yet, if you don't know the difference yet, I highly advise watching a video on it like the one Paltotech uploaded, which I think is very good. It's a very good explanation and I'm gonna link you that below. So I have stumbled upon a lot of YouTube videos and articles and so on of people suggesting you should be shooting JPEG with your Fujifilm cameras. And in general, I think Fujifilm cameras are often bought for their color science, and Fujifilm's color science is, I think, often posted as one of the best in the entire industry, camera industry. And yeah, basically when you have a Fujifilm camera, you have endless options to choose from when it comes to color science. So in the Fujifilm X-T4 that I'm filming on right now, in this camera alone I have 12 different film simulation modes that I can choose from. So if I shoot JPEG only mode, I have 12 different ways to take a picture and theoretically have basically 12 different ways to choose a mood for a picture. For example, I could go for like the highly vibrant mode, I think it's Velvia, which is great for landscapes or if you just have like a lot of color in general. Or I could go the entire other way around and shoot black and white, and even for black and white I have two different film simulation modes. But there aren't just the pre-built film simulation modes, as if that wasn't enough already. You also have the ability to basically build your own film simulations with like different recipes, which you can adjust in your, I think, image quality settings. And there's actually a great website out there and also an app. It's called, I think, Fujifilm X Weekly. I'll just put it on the screen now. And which is basically like a big library of different film simulation recipes that people created. It's like a big community of Fujifilm shooters. And most of these, I think, try to basically copy like old vintage film stocks. And I think they're doing a great job. Like, some of them look really, really nice. So as I said, the Fujifilm color science can be, and actually is for many people, a very big reason to switch to the Fujifilm camera system. For me personally, I have to say it was a reason, but it wasn't a very big reason. I like it, though didn't sway my opinion one way or the other. Yeah, but I frequently use the pre-built film simulations actually, because sometimes when I'm looking at a scene and I'm not sure what to think of it, how the final image is supposed to look, I sometimes just switch in between the different film simulations, and that gives me like an idea how the final image can look. But I never went as far as to shoot only JPEG. I always shoot RAW plus JPEG, because there have been too many occasions where I'm going home with my camera, putting the files on the computer and looking at a big screen, and I see certain things that I have to change about a picture which are basically just not possible. Like it's not possible to change them on a JPEG file because it just doesn't have enough data. So that's why I often need the RAW files to change something on the picture. A couple of examples would be if you're shooting like a highly contrasty scene with a lot of dark shadows and very bright highlights. For example, when you're shooting a sunset or a sunrise, or if you're just shooting like in a city with a lot of tall buildings and the sun is just, yeah, basically shining in, and you're just working with a lot of shadows. Though what I do quite often is when I come home and I review the files, the pictures that I took in Lightroom on my big screen, I apply different Fujifilm film simulations in Lightroom itself, because that's also possible, which is great. I find most of the time I only do that with street and travel photography, not so much with landscape photography. I don't know why. And I really like this because it basically gives me a different view of the image and shows me different ways I can go with the image, and oftentimes I actually like go a completely different direction. So I apply like a different film simulation, and after the fact I will go and edit like small things in that image too. Alright, now we're in Lightroom Classic, and I have a couple of examples with which I want to show you the difference between RAW and JPEG files and why I think you should always be shooting RAW plus JPEG, or at least RAW. So let's start with the JPEG files here. I have a sunrise shot with which I will start. I will go on the develop module, I will select the sky right here. And as you can see, well, no, it's red, but the shot is actually somewhat decently exposed. The problem is the sky is a little too overexposed because it's sunrise and you can't expose properly for everything. JPEG file, I will decrease the exposure a little bit. I could say like this, and also the highlights, let's say like this. Let's go a little more dramatic. Alright, close the mask, and as you can see right here, very overexposed or like just blown out highlights, and there's not much detail here up in the sky with which you can work with because it's JPEG file and Fujifilm Lightroom just doesn't have the data, so it doesn't know how to basically like show this image. It doesn't know what it looks like up there, so it's just guessing. Now I'll do the same thing with the raw file, for which I will go on here. Same thing, develop, mask, sky, and I will just decrease the exposure a little bit, just like this, actually quite a lot, and also the highlights. And as you can see, it looks way better because Lightroom actually has the data, the detail, because the raw file is obviously bigger, of how the sky looks like, even though in the first image you can't see it because it's only showing you what I saw on the camera, and not all the data there is. So yeah, that's one example for you why I think you should be shooting RAW all the time, or at least RAW plus JPEG, and I will show you another example too, which would be the JPEG version of this shot. So exposed for the sky, of course, with the little bar restaurant in the front. Little plastic or paper bag, yeah, I would get rid of that, but I don't want to do this because I'm just trying to show you the exposure. I will select this guy, duplicate and invert the mask, so I have everything but the sky, and now I will increase the exposure like this, so it's somewhat decently exposed. Close the mask, and as you can see, it looks horrible. There's like purple, green here, sorry, yellow. It's green here, purple, like yellow spots, and that's because it's just a JPEG file. It doesn't have enough data, and Lightroom doesn't know what these areas look like, so it's basically just guessing the color and obviously guessing it wrong. And now I'll show you the difference on a raw file, which is this one here. I will again develop, sky, duplicate and invert mask, everything but the sky, and now I'll increase the exposure again like this, and now you can obviously see, of course it's rainy, but you can change that after you're done with the exposure, and you can see that Lightroom has the information because it's a raw file. It's a very big file. It has all the information it needs to basically resemble the colors as they were, as I saw them when I was standing there. And you wouldn't have that option if you would be shooting with a JPEG because it's just not big enough. It doesn't have the data. So yeah, basically there you have it. That's the difference between a RAW and a JPEG file, and the reason why I think you should always be shooting RAW plus JPEG, to use the film simulations to know where you go with a picture from the JPEG mode, but have the RAW file to basically adjust the picture if you want to after you've seen it on your computer. So my conclusion to this video is basically that I think you should always be shooting at least RAW plus JPEG. So even if you like the JPEG files and only use the JPEG files, you at least still have the RAW files to edit after the fact, if you have seen an image and you actually want to change something about it, because that frequently happens. And even if that takes up a little more space of your SD card, it is definitely worth it to just check out the pictures later and see if you need to edit like small things about it. And if not, you still have the JPEG file. Great, you're good to go. You can just put that on your phone, upload that, or print it, or whatever you want to do with it. For me personally, I will always be shooting RAW plus JPEG, because the RAW file is the one I edit. I don't edit JPEGs, and most of the time I want to edit some things of the pictures I took. And the JPEGs, the film simulation modes, they're basically like a great, I guess, guideline for me to see and know where I'm trying to go with an image, but not something I solely rely on. So that's it from me for today. Let me know in the comments down below what your preferred way of shooting is. Do you actually solely rely on your ability to choose the right film simulation mode, or your film simulation recipe and actually only shoot JPEG and just trust in that, because you know you will always use the right film simulation? Or do you go the exact other way around and only shoot RAW and don't even care about the film simulations at all? Or maybe you just do it like me and try to get the best of both worlds and go with RAW plus JPEG and use the film simulations quite frequently to show you where you want to go with an image, and also have the RAW files to edit in the after you took the picture. Yeah, I'm curious. Let me know in the comments down below. Yeah, and if you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. It immensely boosts the YouTube algorithm and spreads the video to more and more people out there, which would, I appreciate. And if you want to see more videos like this, yeah, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. And that's it from me for today. Have a good one. Bye.